Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fitfam, our favorite podcast.
I know it's mine.
I do. As always, we have Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
And this is Doug, the Formulator.
And so we're excited today. We're getting into my favorite holiday coming up.
Halloween. Doug loves himself some Halloween.
October.
So in honor of Halloween, today we are talking all about blood. And we were hoping to do a different podcast today, but not quite there yet with our healthy alternative snacks. But we're getting there, and it's going to be a good one. It's going to be fun. But this one is great. So let's get into blood.
This is actually my favorite. So
I
love this
awesome,
subject.
because snacks is my favorite.
Then that's boom, boom. Me too. And, we're going to go back a little bit about in history, a little bit about our history, my history working, but also the history of why we're so big on blood, why blood is so important to the human body, for you, for us, for everyone's health, but also why we focus on it when we're talking about health. And we had a cool seminar.
Yeah.
Not too long ago.
Yeah. Seminar was awesome.
And we
draw a line in the sand.
Draw a line in the sand. Had doctors from all over the nation show up, and that was the big thing.
Yeah.
Is tell them to draw that line. And the reason we told them to draw that line in the sand is really important, and it's because Big Pharma, and as we talked about in previous episodes, their owners, BlackRock, Vanguard, all them, they don't like alternative medicine. And if you don't know what alternative medicine is, refer back to our
Got another one. Yeah, there's another podcast. That's all about that.
But the thing is that we know that 95% of all disease can either be prevented or cured, right? By lifestyle.
I wish we understood that a little bit better and a little bit more and thought of that on a daily basis, all of us.
Absolutely. I mean, if everyone did what you just said and thought about it on a daily basis, just think about how the world would be.
Yeah.
We're thinking, lifestyle cures, prevents disease. What can I do with my lifestyle? And that's why we've created a lot of programs, spent a lot of money in making our 63 for Me app, 21 Day Challenge, just to help people make healthier habits and choices.
Yep.
And so I brought that up because what's interesting is that we had to find a way, being in alternative medicine and in my career and with Hilary's work, we had to find a way to how can we bridge that gap between what we do in the alternative world and normal Western medicine, because we have to work together.
Absolutely.
And so there was really a gold standard that we went to. That's the blood. The blood.
Mike, what do you want me to say there?
Well, and I think that to understand the blood, it was really the saving grace, for me, and basically what ended up being our work.
Yeah, and I know you'll talk about when you first got into getting going with nutrition and working with sons and stuff, but I think that what it is, it just solidifies what we do and proves what we do, right? Because alternative medicine, sometimes it's like there's no study to support, right?
Right.
So anyways.
Yeah, and for years that's how it was. Decades, that's how it was. It's like, okay, you're off eating this healthy stuff and everything, but really what's the big deal? And vitamins. And luckily now there's enough data, and even in our previous podcast, we went over, study after study after study, 95% of all diseases that end our life early or we lower our quality of life while we're alive can be prevented lifestyle. We didn't have that data that solid before, right? Especially when I first started the MBA. And so we had to find that bridge to do it. And it was blood, as Hilary mentioned. So I do want to take a trip down memory lane for a second.
So, sure. We're here for it. Let's go.
We love the stories. Real quick before we do. What was so funny is that
babe, it's peak week. I don't know. What do you need?
Just on the way to work today, early today, I brought my race car to work, Lucy, and doesn't have a hood. And when I came home at lunch, I was like, okay, it looks like it might rain, so I need to leave Lucy in the garage because she can't get wet, And so I brought my motorcycle. That was kind of like a peak week move. I don't know what happened with that. So you might need to give me a ride home. But
That's so funny.
Not funny. So back to day one of my job in the MBA. Remember, small town boy, both of us from a small town, from Hebrew.
Different small towns. The better small town.
And
the other small town.
And so basically, the life in Phoenix with the Suns was this huge change for me, and so it was a big deal. And I remember day one working in the NBA, and I was so excited. We had the owner on our side, right? I was like, the owner was excited. Some of the players were excited, Danny Ainge and Dan Marley. But then I had to get with the medical team, and that kind of leads into today's topic. It was because
they didn't like you quite as much, did they?
No, they didn't.
No,
In
they
fact, the head of the team itself was the chief surgeon. And on day one, he's like, hey, just stay out of my way. I know the owner likes you and you helped him and some players and all this, but we don't believe in that nutrition really plays a big role, and vitamins especially. And it was like this big thing. Like, gosh, I thought, day one and it's all going to be over with. And luckily, I had a lot of great inspiration in that moment, and the drive and the commitment to be there was so high that it came to me to agree with them and say, you're right. Most supplements are synthetic and they're junk, and most or a lot of things you have to just like believe they work. It's subjective in the alternative world. So let's not go there. Let's just work with what we know and you believe in data and base it on blood.
Yeah. So what they say, supplements are just expensive urine?
Expensive urine, yeah, absolutely.
Because you're peeing it all out?
You're peeing it all out. And it's true with a lot of supplements. But the thing is that in that moment, the doctor still being negative toward me, I think this thought, oh, here's my way to prove that, this alternative nutrition and lifestyle and, supplements don't work. We'll do it based on the blood. And he was on board with that. So we had this mutual.
He almost thought, okay, great. I'll prove you wrong.
I'll prove you wrong. Yeah. And luckily, when you do things right, eat healthier, take the right vitamins, the blood does improve. And so what ended up being the guy that I thought was going to get me fired on day one ended up being one of the best allies.
I love it.
Right? Dr. Emerson, and he ended up referring me to a lot of other teams and all that. But that happened because of the blood. And it's the same thing with each of you, is understanding that if you know your blood work and what's in it and what's going on, that you'll be able to then bridge that gap too. Maybe you want to do things a little more alternatively with your doctors, but they're, maybe they're like, hey, I'm not sure you should be taking those vitamins and that. Well, let's
look at the blood. Yeah. Not too long ago, one of our kids had somebody tell them, I think you're relying too heavily on blood work. And we thought that was the funniest thing we had ever heard. What a silly, almost
too much,
almost ignorant thing to say, considering the blood tells you everything and how everything is functioning within the body. And we're talking everything, and so you almost cannot have too much blood work. There's so much information that we can pull from it, and then from there create the master plan for health.
Boom. That's a great way to put it. And we always say the secret to optimal health is in the blood.
It's in the
blood.
Yeah.
And so let's go 101 on blood for a minute, just to help people that maybe don't understand what the importance of your blood.
Okay. So what is blood? Blood is the fluid that gives life, growth, and health. So life, it transports oxygen from the lungs to the body tissue and carbon dioxide from the body tissue to the lungs. You want to go into that at all?
No, that's awesome. We actually call it the river of life because of just that.
I love that
so it helps
so much.
With life. What else?
Growth. So nourishment from digestion and hormones from glands are transported throughout the body through blood.
And so you don't get any growth unless the blood cells deliver the nutrients to the muscles, to
blood
the
tissues.
And you also don't get rid of toxins.
Yeah.
That's part of growth, I think, too, is we don't get rid of those toxins. Unless, it happens with the blood. I guess it kind of leads to the third principle.
Health, right? So disease-fighting substances are carried to the tissues and waste to the kidneys.
And it has to happen through the blood. And so the blood is everything. So it's not just about the nutrients that are in the blood. It's about the ability for the red blood cell to actually carry the nutrients to the tissues and to carry the toxins out.
Yep.
Because if they're like we always joke around, it's like a wet paper sack. If your red blood cells aren't healthy and strong, then actually they might pull up some heavy metals, but then dump them somewhere else. Or they're taking nutrients to some specific area, past the blood-brain barrier to help you with cognitive function and focus and all that. and they, drop off too early because of the wet paper sac. So it's not just the nutrients in the blood, it's the blood cells themselves. I think a lot of
I
people
do
don't
like
realize that.
making that distinction for sure. There are approximately 250 million red blood cells and 500,000 white blood cells in just a few drops of blood, in just a few drops.
Just a few drops, because there's trillions in the body of red blood cells and millions of white blood cells. And the difference is the red blood cells do everything Hilary just talked about, right? Take nutrients to the tissues, take toxins away, all those process. The white blood cells are an immune system, right? And help the body, and sometimes even help digestion. And so if you think about it, if you have trillions of red blood cells, or 250 million of them just in a few little drops of blood, you think that, well, then, what's the big deal? We have so much of it. But every single red blood cell, and one of the greatest things that was ever said to me ever in life as far as business and my career is concerned, is my first mentor took me aside and said, Doug, if you focus on the cell, you will have a successful life of helping people reach optimal health. And he said, look, each red blood cell, even though there's trillions of them, like we just talked about, they all work just like your whole body. They're a microcosm of your entire body. Right. So just like we can eat and breathe, so can they. We take in those nutrients, they do. We excrete waste, they do. They live, 110 days, 110 to 120 days.
We're supposed to live about 110, 120 years.
120 years. And so if you think about it, wait, they live 110, 120 days. We're supposed to live 110, 120 years. They do everything we do. And it just was this light bulb for me. It's like, oh my gosh, if I focus on the cells of everyone, just individual cells, and we look at how healthy they are, what your lifestyle is doing to affect them, it'll affect the whole body. And that could bring us to that point where we're looking at the 110, 120 years of age of quality of life. And that's a cool thing. Blood is so important. There's some crazy comments about it and everything.
Doug loves himself a good quote. So he's pulled up a couple quotes for us. An ounce of blood is worth more than a pound of friendship. That's proverb.
Yeah, an ancient proverb. And you're like, well, what does that have to do with anything? They're using blood as an example of the most important thing.
Yeah.
Goethe, or Goth, some people call him. He always said, he's a famous German writer, said blood is a very special juice. He was, and I know it's kind of silly, but he was talking about how important the blood is to the body. And this was way back hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
You want me to get this one?
This is a good one.
I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. Winston Churchill.
Winston Churchill.
That's a good one.
And it's going back to, everyone knows your core is blood. That's why there's these quotes. And, even the great, philosopher, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson said, blood, sweat, and respect. First two you give, the last one you earn. As you give the blood, you give your effort. It's really about, a lot has to do with the blood, and all those silly things were just to help people understand that the world innately knows that things center around your blood.
Yeah.
So what a lot of people don't know is that every second, 2 to 3 million red blood cells are produced, and it's produced in your bone marrow and released into circulation. So you're having new red blood cells created every second of the body. And so it's important to have everything in order so that they're created properly, that you have nice, healthy blood cells, and that they're able to do the things that are needed in the body. And as we said, it's one of the most uniting factors.
That is really, really cool. Yeah. I mean, that is the one thing we all have in common, right?
Absolutely. No matter even what form of medicine, right? Chinese medicine, herbal medicine, Western medicine, and alternative medicine. And one thing that I think saved my career and helps us with our clients, because a lot of our clients, one of them even told us, said, you know what, I really don't like being bamboozled in his place of being like a billionaire, right? It was like, I fell for every little thing and that. And so I really try to base things off of data. And what he liked about us doing the concierge program with them was the first thing we told him is, you don't have to believe us. In fact, we don't want you to believe us.
Yeah.
Right. We want you to look at the data. And as the data proves what we're saying, then you can start to, trust in us, and maybe sometimes, just based on what we're saying, but we'll always back it up with research. But you'll get to that point. But at first, don't do it. Don't believe us. And because of that, through a lot of trials over the years and things that have happened, people have been able to stick with, I know with like me, for example, with going through a lot of different things in life, when it comes to health, sticking with this because they're like, look, we don't have to believe him. We have to understand that the data is there, that the proof is in the blood and in the research. And so I think that's really cool. And a lot of the athletes and stuff is because they didn't have to believe us. So let's jump right to it. So what we're talking about is getting blood work done. And so we have a program that we have, and we're going to kind of refer to it, but you can just go get your blood work done with your doctor and just kind of see the importance of this. And the purpose now of the podcast is really to help you understand, look, you need to get blood work done. You need to learn how to look at it and read it nutritionally, or make sure your health professional knows how to do that. And we're going to refer to our program that we do that with everyone, the public and teams and the doctors, called Nutrients RX.
Yeah, and I think what I love about Nutrients RX and what we do is that we're not just looking for disease or, when something, a pathogen, we're looking for overall health. It's not just, oftentimes I think when you go and see your medical doctor, things aren't an issue until they are a disease, until it is an issue, or until you're steps away. Well, the great thing about blood work and consistent blood work is that you get to see where your numbers are headed. And so you constantly know what direction you're going in not just one area, in all of the different areas that you have the ability to change or fix or improve.
That's a great point. And I think that's critical. Let's start off with that. That's a really good point. Is when you have blood work, you have clinical low, which is like every type of health professional says, oh, it's clinically low, something's wrong, right? And they'll go to fix it no matter what type of medicine you do. And then you have the clinical high, which is the same thing. Clinical low and clinical high on your blood reports is usually not good. And we need to fix those things. Sometimes it's just a major deficiency or something like that. And other times it's a real serious issue. But everything in between those two, as Hilary said, a lot of Western medicine doctors will just say, oh,
you're good. Or they don't even mention it.
They don't mention it. Yeah. A lot of people that we know of, they say, I had blood work done. My doctor said it was fine. Well, what did it say? I don't know. Did you look at it? No.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's so interesting, because oftentimes I know what spurs me into action is positivity, and to know some things are headed in the right direction. So I feel like it is imperative to not only know the things that are the things that are off the scale bad. It's super important to know the things that, hey, you're doing this right. And so it's like, okay, what am I doing in my diet or my nutrition or my supplements or my exercise that makes this right?
That's a really good point. And I think that what we're saying, give you an example with cholesterol. With cholesterol, you might have a cholesterol that's 199. Well, that means it's functional high. It's going toward the high, but it's because it's not 200. Your medical doctor might say, oh, you're fine.
Right.
But at 200, they want to put you on a statin.
Exactly. Exactly.
And we're told you earlier.
Yeah. And wouldn't it be great if we could just know which direction we're heading in before we have to be put on a prescription to try to fix something, to be able to take responsibility. Who doesn't want to be able to take responsibility? I love the concept of being responsible for me and being responsible for my health, because that means I get to change it and I get to fix it and I get to be the owner of it.
Absolutely. And so with the blood work, you have clinical low and clinical high, and then everything in between. But the research is really specific on what's optimal. So what we've done with our reports, instead of the normal report from like LabCorp, Quest and that, is that we put the range for optimal. And so you're able to see, oh, I'm functional low. In other words, it's heading the wrong way, like depletion or something. Or, hey, it's heading, up too high. And in the functional low or high, and you can get that. You're like, hey, I'm making progress the right direction toward optimal, whatever it might be. And you know that your lifestyle habits or the supplements or the, things, nutrition that you're taking is helping. Or you can say, hey, it's starting to go the wrong way, and let's catch it before something drastic happens. And that's one of the big things is we're not talking about catching even like diseases, which is important. We have a lot of friends that lately there's been this big epidemic of, it seems like, prostate cancer, and some that are really high. I'm like, dang, I wish we could have caught that a lot sooner. And others that did catch it sooner because they do blood work often and they're able to fix it. But also with like how you're feeling, just not quite feeling right. Well, it might be vitamin D levels and stuff, and we'll get into them, are a little bit low, not clinically low, but just start
low enough to feel it.
Low enough to feel it. Yeah. Good point. And so it is good to know that. I think many times with you've seen your blood work, like, oh, that makes sense. At least I'm not crazy.
Right. Yeah.
And,
There's something about that. There's something about knowing it's not all in your head, right?
Absolutely.
And to know there's a reason, but not just that there's a reason, but there's also a way to fix it.
And so what we're going to do is not get into great detail. We'd actually train people on what we're going to go over right now. We're going to go over it real briefly to kind of give you some input as to how to look at blood work. Let's say you have some blood work from your doctor right now, or if you've had blood work done, tip one, it's your blood work. You can say, I want a copy of my blood work. It's your blood work. And so you can have it. They should give it to you. And when you get it, there's some things you can look at. So we're going to go through some of those basics real quick. Is that okay?
I love it.
We do that? So
Love it.
the first thing is when we go through people's blood work, like through the Nutrients RX program, the very first thing we talk about is what is your risk for the number one disease that's going to take your life early or cause a poor quality of life?
Let's look at that heart, baby.
Heart disease. And so probably the biggest blood marker people know of is cholesterol.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so we take a look at it and we look at your bad cholesterol. And we say bad meaning if it's really too high. Everyone needs some cholesterol. Maybe that's not understood a lot. But we call it the bad cholesterol if it's too high and versus the good cholesterol.
Right.
Right? And the HDL. Mm-hmm. And so
your bad cholesterol is what?
Total cholesterol.
Total cholesterol. Your good cholesterol, you're looking for what?
Is HDL, the high density lipoproteins. And the way we determine your risk is divide the two. Right?
You're always looking for the ratio, right?
The ratio. So let's say that Hilary's cholesterol was 400 and total cholesterol, and her HDL was 100. Then that would be a 4.0, right, difference when we're looking at the ratio. And that wouldn't be good. We want to keep it in the twos. So somewhere in the 2 range. If you're in the 3, it's not too bad, but 4 and 5, it's a real high risk of heart disease. And so we want to look at that. So that's kind of the first section. And we look at that really specifically because both of us have genetically higher cholesterol than most people. So we look at those numbers and we look at that ratio because really it's not so much just the total cholesterol, but it's the ratio. And so if we keep our ratio under control, then we're great. And what can you do? Total cholesterol bad, we watch our diet.
Right.
And how do we get our good cholesterol up, the HDL? And that's really a big factor because I can raise my HDL.
I'm yawning.
And
really big peak week, sorry.
That's all right. USA's in 3 days.
Yep.
It raise the HDLs through exercise and fatty acids. And so, for example, someone like Hilary could have a higher cholesterol genetically that might affect some people, but because her exercise level is so great and she takes in the good fats, avocados, extra virgin olive oil, you're good with
raw nuts, love raw nuts.
Then her HDL level's high also. And so that ratio is really the key. So that's kind of the first thing, right, that we like talking about is anything else along that lines that you think about that comes to mind when we're talking about heart disease? Because we do talk about it a lot, about the blood and that. But pretty much that's it. And so you bring up a good point a lot of time that nowadays a lot of people talk about the other thing with heart disease, not so much the cholesterol, HDL,
LDL,
but the LDL. And a lot of people just focus on that for good reason. LDL, you don't want to be above 100. So there's 2 ways to look at heart disease, the cholesterol HDL ratio and or LDL. So why are we going over that? And we're going to go over the rest of them really, really quick. These are simple things for you to look at and look at your blood work right now.
For you to be able to look at your blood work, yeah.
For you. And so like Hilary has her blood work here. And how many do you have on there?
Wow, since
like 10?
10
or 11.
Mm-hmm.
So on her blood work through the Nutrients RX program, she gets her own little portal and she has 10 or 11 different blood tests on there side by side. And so she's able to see her progress or not. And I think that's a lot what you were talking about.
Oh, our portal's incredible. It's unlike any other thing.
Yeah, it's super cool. And so now let's just move on real quick. So one of the first things we talk about, so you to know about, is your risk of heart disease. We also look how well you digest fat there. The next thing is your risk of diabetes. And so we look at blood glucose. Mm-hmm. And then one other factor there, the hemoglobin A1C. Mm-hmm. And the blood glucose, kind of what your blood sugar is that day, but more importantly is the hemoglobin A1C because that's over time.
Yeah, over 90 days?
90 days.
Yeah.
Yep, over 90 days. And we measure the inside of the red blood cell, that thickness, and that gives us your blood sugar over 9 days. And it's a fairly new test. It's like really, really cool. They used to not be able to do that.
Love that.
But that tells us really what is your risk of not just diabetes, but how are you handling insulin, blood sugar. And we know now that sugar in the blood is one of the leading causes of obesity. And actually, many people believe the leading cause of obesity in the body.
Yeah.
Because if you have too many red blood cells, if you have too much sugar in the blood, the body wants to get rid of it, and it'll convert a lot of it into triglycerides and store it as fat. So super important. So look, risk of heart disease, and then look at your hemoglobin A1C numbers, and you want to be between like 5.1, 5.2, 5.3.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's cool. And so
where does somebody want their total cholesterol to be?
Oh, good. So because some people are genetically higher than others, a person that doesn't have genetically high cholesterol, the 150, 160s, if you genetically have higher cholesterol, you just want to keep under 200.
Okay.
And then you're doing good. And you'll know after you've done blood a few times, or a lot of times your health professional will already know.
Yeah. So one of the things that we knew about me as we started doing blood work a few years back and really being consistent about it is that my cholesterol liked to hover right at 200, sometimes a little bit higher. So, so we knew that genetically I have a little bit higher cholesterol, and through diet and exercise we are able to keep it under 200.
Yeah.
But it is some work for me.
It is some work for you. And someone else that lived that lifestyle, they'd be down in 150.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so I think that that's really important to understand. And so there's one thing that we want to talk about, because most people, that if you even heard of blood, you kind of know about the cholesterol, right? And that ratio. And
a lot of people understand diabetes and
I've heard about the new hemoglobin A1C.
Yeah.
But here's one that's really big for us that we talk about. And
so C-reactive protein.
C-reactive protein on your blood test, super critical.
Yeah.
It helps us know inflammation.
Inflammation throughout the body.
Yeah, throughout the body, I think is the key. I mean, systemic. So you want to look at that. And for anti-aging and for the best benefit, we want to keep it under 1. So like point something, right?
Yep.
5, 6, 7. And what's really cool about your blood work, we were just talking about it the other day, is that you've gotten yours down. At one time you were 1 and above, which is still not too bad.
Yeah.
But now the last time, like last week, it was
0.2.
0.2. And so we know that she handles carbohydrates and she handles blood sugar and that really, really well, and that she's got a handle on the fat, so there's no inflammation in the body. And so that's important. If you have a high inflammation in the body, that leads to disease. One of the leading causes of the disease today is inflammation within the body. And so C-reactive protein, super, super important one. Let's go over a few more just to kind of help people understand it. A big one that was for sports and for you.
So protein.
And this is one that gets me sometimes because, like with Hilary, right? Hilary eats a lot more protein than I eat, and she eats a lot more meat than I eat. And so
meat. When we say meat, I'd like to clarify, because some people consider meat like red meat. I eat very little red meat, and I eat hardly any pork. I mean, there's certain times of the year that maybe I'll consume some of those things around Christmas or something. But when we talk about meat, for me, my meat is ground turkey, chicken, whitefish mainly. And then of course eggs and egg whites, and then protein powders, but that's my main. Oh, that's not meat, but protein. But so
yeah,
I guess when we're saying meat, I eat ground turkey, really chicken, fish. So that's my meat.
So many people we talk to, we say meat, they think it's only talking about.
They think there was this thing that I eat red, like I eat steak and hamburgers and stuff, and that does not happen.
So Hilary's protein content for her weight is a lot higher than mine is for my weight, and I do more plant-based proteins. But the point is that if you do blood work, you can see how you handle it. And some people handle a lot of protein.
Okay, and that's my other thing with doing blood work is that genetically some of us will be able to digest proteins better than others. Genetically, some of us will be able to handle our blood sugar better than others, and eat carbohydrates better. And some of us digest fats better than others. And
not so much.
No, fats and I do not get along. We just are not the best of friends.
And it's not about body fat for being doing bodybuilding too. She cannot digest fats well genetically.
Genetically, which makes sense why my cholesterol is genetically higher.
Right. But we know too, because here's a little tip. If you get a little pain in your shoulder blade, many times
It's like a constant pain up in here.
It's many times a referred pain from the gallbladder because of fat digestion. If you cleaned up your diet, many times the pain goes away. And that's one of the reasons we knew that. So, but with protein, back to our thing, I keep going off. Sorry, I speak on this for like 4 or 5 days in a row, doctor. So we're condensing in a few minutes. So with protein, you just look at protein and see how your body's doing. You know how much protein you take, and if it's optimal, your protein on there, especially one of the markers called uric acid. If your uric acid level is high, then at least a condition you know about in your family a lot.
Gout.
Gout.
Yeah, my dad suffered with gout for years on years.
And it's a real simple one to fix. If you're
willing to cut out red meat.
Which
he was not.
Because uric acid's a meaning of a special type of or a protein that has something called purines in it, which is red meat, pork, shellfish. And so if you cut those out, usually uric acid levels come down and you take enough enzymes.
Shellfish was the one that would get him bad.
Yeah, big time you'd have it.
Big time.
And so what we do with people with gout, in fact, my first investor in the company.
Yes. Yeah, so what's cool about that is he was limping, right? Mm-hmm. And Doug could tell just by the way he was walking, he had gout, and it's because gout settles far from the heart, right? So people that suffer with gout have pain in their toes, in their big toes, especially.
That's a good point.
Anyways, and so Doug could tell by the way he was walking. You tell it.
No, I love when you. And so instead of asking him to invest in the company, because he was really just more of a friend of the owner of the team, and he was not really there, I just said, hey, let me just do something with you. If you quit eating red meat and pork for the next 4 weeks, and then take these enzymes that help digest protein, well, you come back and let's see if your gout gets fixed. And he's like, oh, I'm on these drugs and they don't work, and not your little thing's going to fix it. And I said, well, you just commit to do that. And he said, I'll do it for the owner, but not for you. And so he did. When he came back with a blank check because he said that his gout was cured.
I love when we work with people with nutrition, because it is something that we all innately probably know how important it is, but until we really apply it and see the benefits, it's like magic. It's magic, and it's magic for people that have suffered with pain or a disease for years upon years, and this light bulb goes off and they're like, wow, I really have control over that. And it is huge. Freaking magic.
It is huge. And all gout really is inability to digest certain proteins. So you take those proteins away, the pathogens, the problems, and then you help people digest the protein with the enzymes, and boom, all of a sudden they're cured.
Boom.
It's just a really, really cool thing. And when he brought the blank check, I filled it out and he ripped it up and he laughed. He said, no, not that blank, but we didn't have to them. So protein levels are really cool. To kind of go quick, some of the things that you can find out in the body is like how the hormones balance is, and thyroid. Thyroid's a big one. So it says TSH on the blood test. It's thyroid stimulating hormone. And you have great research, or your blood, Hilary's was going to be hypo.
Yeah, where is my
where it wasn't working well.
I want to share the actual numbers because it's so crazy.
So just to let you know, we want it to be like the high ones, about 2. So 1.5 to 2.5-ish is a really cool place to be. But above that means it's hypo. So the higher the number, the less the thyroid's working. Yours got up there a bit.
Mine got real high for a while there, right up into 5.5.
Yeah, 5.5, and at one point, before I started doing this, like 14, 15.
Yeah, we don't have that on this one. But super high, and now we're under 2. So
just recently went back down. And
recently went way back down.
Because the thyroid, like most organs or in the body or glands, run off one nutrient more than another. Like the brain loves fatty acids, right? Things like that, and magnesium for your muscles. And for the thyroid, it's iodide and iodine. And so if it's sluggish, we can just speed it back up again.
Speed that boy up.
So knowing that is important. Again, before you go on thyroid prescription medicine, or even the doctor recommends it, if you see that it's starting to go up, you can actually fix it before then. Then there's not even an argument with, can I do it naturally or not? Because you fixed it naturally, so it never got bad. And when it comes to hormones, we've already done one podcast on this. We're going to do another one on this, just on hormones,
Yay.
on testosterone, estrogen, and why they're so important throughout your entire life, men and women. But you want to know those numbers.
You do want to know those numbers.
And we'll kind of save for that. But there's some things with the blood work that you can also look at to say, look, oh, maybe your numbers look fine, but there's some other markers to tell you that it's being bound up, the testosterone's bound up. And so we want to look at those things. But the key to energy and vitality, your drive, is the balance between estrogen and testosterone. And the world's out to get you. The world's out to raise your estrogen levels for men and women and lower testosterone, because that gap is the problem. And that's when you feel like you're going crazy or you just don't care.
100%. Yeah. Or you feel like you have no willpower and you have no drive, or you have so much drive, and so much willpower. Yeah.
It is a big
so based on hormones. Yeah.
And so some of the other things is we look at, we'll hit on one more blood, then we'll just finish up here with the organs and vitamins and minerals, is that there's a thing in the blood called hematocrit. It's the amount of red blood cells.
This one's been big for Doug for the last few years, because ever since COVID, people's hematocrit levels have gone through the roof, and it then leads to heart attacks and strokes, and the blood clumping is basically what we're talking about. And so if your hematocrit is high because you've come in contact with the with COVID or the virus, right? Or maybe you got the shot, because that will raise your hematocrit. And then you do something else on top of that then raises your hematocrit. It's all bad news.
It is all bad. So healthy people are dropping. And so we look at hematocrit, and there's great things you can do to help with it. Clean up the diet, fatty acids, certain nutrients, and to get it down. And so that's really important. But if you take any type of steroid, prednisone, TRT, anything like that, it's usually going to be high, and we need to get it down. So we look at hematocrit, knowing the amount of red blood cells is important. You don't want a traffic jam. You want everything flowing.
Free flowing.
In the body.
Let's go.
I love that. Then there's white blood cells.
Yeah.
And each white blood cell, just a real quick, there's neutrophils, there's eosinophils, there's basophils, right? Lymphocytes. There's all these white blood cells, and each of them do different things.
Right.
And if you just know what they do, then it's pretty simple. So in the Nutrients RX, I recommend, I'm just going to be straight with you, everyone should do the Nutrients RX program at least once. And that's where you just go on or the blood work, and you go get the lab work done wherever you're at. We tell you a place to go, LabCorp or something like that. But when you get it, there's, with your report, there's a little button for the video, and the video explains all this in detail, better than we're doing today. And so you're like, oh, that's what that's about. And you can learn about it. And even if you don't do it anymore through us, then you'll know wherever you get it through. So Nutrients RX is cool, but neutrophils, how your bacteria levels in the body, because they fight bacteria.
Yeah, the thing with the whole white blood cells and some of the neutrophils, or what, some of them being higher, some being lower, whether you're dealing with a virus or bacteria.
Right. Bacteria,
depending on
neutrophils, lymphocytes, virus. Right. You can even tell if there's parasites.
Parasites, yeah. And we've dealt with that a lot. And actually that one's
eosinophils.
Yeah, that one is really big, and people don't realize just how much a parasite can affect their health and their mental well-being and emotional well-being. And man, we've nipped some parasites in that.
Oh yeah, they're actually pretty easy to kill without drugs. And so we had one person that worked for us here that affected them tremendously, a guy that had high eosinophils, so we knew he had parasites, and sure enough, he did. Mm-hmm. We've had one of our concierge clients, both of them.
And family members that we've dealt with recently. I'm just talking about recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of them felt like they had mental issues.
Yes.
Because they're like, am I going crazy? I'm just so...
Like, they just don't feel like themselves.
Yeah. And the second the parasites, we got them killed, their eosinophils went down in the blood work, so it proved that it happened, and they felt better. So, yeah, really cool. So white blood cells, knowing what they are, which ones do what, getting a 5-minute understanding of that goes a big ways. And then one of the big things we like doing the blood work that not all normal blood, you were going to mention that, about not the blood work you get from your doctor many times isn't really all the blood work you need. There's all the markers.
Yeah. Yeah. So we know your vitamin and mineral levels. And so we can go through calcium, iron, your sodiums, your potassiums. So we could just, your electrolytes. So yeah. So anyways.
No, and that's important. And not all blood tests for everything, right? So a lot of times the doctors are looking for disease tests, which you need to do, which we do.
For sure.
But we want to look at what's going on to help you reach optimal health. So all of those vitamin levels.
And what's really important with the whole vitamin level concept too is that when you come to us and we put you on vitamins, the goal is to watch some of those vitamin levels rise or fall the way they're supposed to.
Absolutely. And we always talk to our concierge clients and even the athletes. I remember the Suns and all the teams of Heat and that would be like, look, take your dadgum vitamins and I guarantee these markers are going to go up. They're going to go up, especially now like people's vitamin D levels are low, which low vitamin
D is a fun one
right?
to fix.
And we said, just take them. They're going to go up no matter what. These things will improve in your blood, even if your diet still sucks and everything else. Now, here's some markers that won't improve that much, though, with just taking your vitamins.
Right.
That's going to be based on lifestyle. And so it's really cool.
So it's easy. And that's also a really great way for us to know who actually is really committed to their diet and their exercise and their supplements, because there's some people that are really committed to their supplements, but not so much their diet. So it's an easy way to know when they're committed.
One last story.
Oh, let's go.
So talking about that, one of the other things in the blood that we check for is organ health. And we look at the liver enzymes, AST, ALP, and say how well the liver's doing.
Right.
Some people can actually drink a little alcohol, not affect them. Others drink one little sip, and it goes crazy. We had one player that had beers quite a bit, and his liver was healthy, and it drove me crazy because I had a hard time telling him to quit.
Right. He's like, show me.
Yeah.
Once it starts going bad.
And another one could just take a sip, and his liver enzymes went crazy,
Yeah.
right? But the story I wanted to tell is when people come off the off season, the players would come back. They'd all say, "Yeah, make sure you let the coach and the owners know I've been kicking tail and I've been practicing hard, staying in shape, and working out."
Funny.
And they all said the same thing. And so we quit listening to them and just do the blood work.
Yeah.
And there's one little test when we're looking at organ health called creatinine, that you're looking at kidney health. And if you really work out hard and consistently, that number is up a little bit. It's
mine's always a little bit elevated.
It's always elevated.
Yeah.
1.1, 1.2, that's a little bit higher than normal. Well, we know that you're exercising at a high level. And a lot of them, if they're low, I'm like, yeah, you're lying.
Yeah, you ain't doing the exercise you say you're doing.
So you find out your liver health, your kidney health, which is critical. If you can catch your liver and kidney way before disease sets in, which your doctors won't tell you usually until it's already to a drug or
and there's just things that you can do to improve, simple things. We're talking like drinking water. It can be as simple as that, but yet it can be as harmful as, you need to take those babies out. So
and there's certain herbs like milk thistle method dramatically improve the liver, even if a person's been on prescription drugs or alcohol or something that affects their liver. So one of our clients that we've had on the program for quite a while, in fact, he tells us, we can say it was Russel Brunson. Russel Brunson, we did his blood work over and over again, like Hilary's. It was all next to each other. And then one time we did it, and the liver, my son, that's okay, I showed it again. Liver enzymes were really high, and it's because he was taking some healthy, he felt supplements, but they were affecting him. The point was the blood work was the key.
Right.
And so you just want to do the blood work just to see, because sometimes like, well, I don't do anything wrong. Well, a lot of times things we think we're doing right might affect you.
Such a great point.
In a bad way.
And you might find that where somebody can follow one type of diet and have really good results, you might follow that same type of diet and it is just not, your body's not down. And Absolutely. So anyways.
So, let's kind of finish up. So the point today is not to bore you with blood work, is to help impress upon you the need to get blood work done. We recommend a minimum of twice a year. Yeah. Every 6 months. There's nobody we work with that doesn't get it at least every 6 months. At least
twice a year, yeah.
And a lot of times if there's something going on, we do it a lot.
3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Maybe
and
5 times.
Maybe 5. And so do your blood work, get to know it. One way to do it is go to nutrientsrx.com or DM us, get hold of us and through YouTube or whatever, and we'll get back with you on it. Get your blood work done where you can start looking at it and understanding it a bit, at least to be able to have good communication with your health professional.
Then once you've done your blood work, get on a great exercise and nutrition program, get the best supplements, whole food, and then watch your numbers improve. There's nothing like it. It's so great to be able to get your blood work done.
It is.
And then watch those numbers improve.
It's 2 things. One is, isn't it great when you lose weight and your clothes fit better and you see that visually? That's one part of health. The other part is to see and watch the improvement internally.
Oh, the thing about the weight loss, while great, and for most people super healthy, it's not always the case, right? And so being able to see what's going on internally is really, man, it just eases your mind.
And I think it's a really good point is a lot of people think because they're losing weight, they are healthy, and many times a lot of these crazy diets and things out there actually are causing a bigger problem internally.
Right.
And we see that, and you see it with the blood work. That's why it's like, I don't know, let's see what that diet's doing for you. We do the blood work and look at it.
Yeah.
So really, the bottom line is get your blood work done. If you need help with that, well, we can help you do the Nutrients RX program or not. Get with your doctor and ask them to help you understand what your blood work means, truly, not just if you have pathology or disease, but which way you're heading and what things you can do. Lifestyle, 95%.
95%.
Right.
That's why blood work is so important.
And please get it done. So it's a little bit different podcast today, but I think it's critical to know the things that we teach the doctors around the nation, the things that we do personally to make sure we're on track. And that is, we don't believe ourselves, right? We let the data prove it, and we'll go off the data.
And here's the thing is that for myself especially, Doug's pretty steady Eddie with his diet and nutrition. He really is. And I too am. I get into grooves where we're really good, but I'm kind of a brat in the way that I want to prove, not you, but I want to prove it wrong. Like, nah, I can eat this way, and sometimes I can eat this way and it's fine. It's not going to affect me. It always comes back to the blood, and it's like, sure, if you think let's see. And I'm always proven wrong. I am always proven wrong with that.
Sometimes you're proven right when you fix it. You're proven that
Right.
fixes it. But like the thyroid keeps to be a big thing because with Hillary's sucralose and a lot of these sugars or fake sugars out there really affect our thyroid in a huge way.
And fat, and because I'm drawn to that fat. Anyways, get your blood work
As
done.
we finish up, we need your help real quick.
Oh my God.
And so we made these cool
What
medals
are you doing?
for the pros
Why
at
are
the
you
USA Championships this weekend with the winners. And Hilary thinks they're a little too gaudy. And these are the ones we did last year, and we made them again this year. We need your opinion on whether they're too gaudy or not. This year we're changing it up. I'm going to put another chain with it, so it'll be 2 chain.
Tell me that's a joke.
And so,
Don't put another one with it, Doug.
so anyways, but isn't that cool? I just think it's cool. And so let us know if we think it is, so we can settle this debate. It's not too gaudy.
Putting another one.
Especially 2 chains.
I can't tell if you're joking.
So anyways, I wanted to do that also just to give a shout out to Hilary, because we just did blood work. We've been doing it a lot lately, and we just did it again last week, and it's improved dramatically in some areas. And I think it's that additional focus. So one of the things is that we talk about is if you live 90%, healthy with your nutrition and supplements and everything, that's so far above most people. You're living at this higher level. It's easy to kind of like, okay, I'm there. Why do I need to go that extra mile? And this last prep, or this prep, you've gone to 100.
Thanks.
And it's really paid off. It's paid off internally. It's paid off outwardly, like she's coming in the best shape of her life to it. And it just goes to show, though, that if you really want something, go full in, do it 100, and base it on data so that you know what you're doing is right and that it's working at the highest level. So super excited.
A little emotional.
So congratulations and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, babe. Love you.
USA's. And again, blood work, it is the river of life. It's something you should know about. We all have it. It's the reason that we are mortal.
It's the reason we're mortal, and it's the reason we're all the same.
Absolutely great point. And if it wasn't for blood, we could be immortal, but we are mortal at 110, 120 years. Take care of that blood so we can live that long with high quality of life. We love you guys. Thanks so much. Keep chewing. Whoop, whoop.